Do you remember the Christmas chaos that made Home Alone, 1990, impossible to forget? Behind every trap, scream, and snow-covered street was a crew of people turning one wild idea into a holiday legend. But after all these years, what strange truths were hiding in that empty house? Joe Pesci bit Macaulay Culkin for real while filming Home Alone. In the scene where Harry threatens to bite off Kevin's fingers, Pesci wanted the moment to look truly menacing, and it worked a little too well. Culkin later revealed that Pesci actually broke the skin on his finger during one of the takes. He still has a faint scar from the accident, calling it his Home Alone souvenir. Pesci apologized afterward, but explained he was trying to stay in character, avoiding too much rehearsal so the reactions felt fresh. Director Chris Columbus said that kind of intensity was exactly what made the Wet Bandits both hilarious and genuinely scary. Despite the pain, Culkin said it was worth it, because that bite made the scene unforgettable. The mix of real danger and slapstick humor helped turn Home Alone into more than a kid's comedy. It became chaos you could almost feel. The tarantula scene was 100% real, and yes, it really crawled. Across Daniel Stern's face, the crew couldn't use a fake spider because it would have looked too stiff on camera. Stern reluctantly agreed to do it, but only if they promised one take. Animal handlers assured him the spider wouldn't bite as long as he stayed calm, though Stern said that was impossible. When the tarantula started crawling toward his mouth, he had to scream silently so he wouldn't scare it. The blood-curdling yell you hear in the movie was added later in post-production. Stern later joked that the spider got the best acting credit in the whole film. One take, one scream, and an entire generation of kids learned what bravery really looked like. Kevin's iconic scream was completely improvised. The script simply said that Kevin should react to the sting of aftershave, but Macaulay Culkin decided to leave his hands pressed to his cheeks, creating one of the most famous images in movie history. Director Chris Columbus said the crew erupted in laughter, knowing instantly that it was the perfect reaction. The shot was so unexpected that it became the film's defining moment, used in every poster and trailer. Culkin said he had no idea it would become a symbol of holiday chaos for decades. Sometimes movie magic isn't planned, it's just one kid having fun in front of the camera. That single scream didn't just define Kevin McAllister, it defined an entire era of Christmas movies. The McAllister house you see in Home Alone wasn't a real home on the inside. It was an elaborate set built inside a high school gym in Winnetka, Illinois. Production designer John Muto transformed the gym into a full-scale suburban mansion, complete with stairs, hallways, and even a working kitchen. The decision came after the crew realized that filming inside a real home would make the stunts impossible. The gym's bleachers were removed to create space, and walls were built so they could be moved for camera angles. To complete the illusion, Muto lined the windows with painted backdrops of snowy neighborhoods. The result fooled everyone. It looked like the perfect family home, but behind the walls, it was all plywood and lighting rigs. It's still considered one of the most impressive indoor movie sets ever built. John Hughes wrote the script for Home Alone in just 10 days. Known for his quick writing style, Hughes came up with the idea while preparing for another movie, Uncle Buck. He imagined what it would be like if a child accidentally got left behind on vacation, and the rest poured out almost overnight. He wrote 10 pages a day, finishing the first draft before the week was over. By the time he reached the ending, he already had every trap and gag mapped out in his head. Chris Columbus said the script was so tight that almost every joke from the first draft made it into the final film. Hughes's knack for turning simple ideas into timeless comedies made Home Alone a classic before the cameras even rolled. Joe Pesci had to stop himself from swearing during every take. Coming off the back of Goodfellas, he was used to colorful language, not kid-friendly dialogue. The filmmakers constantly reminded him this was a Christmas movie, not a gangster flick. To avoid ruining takes, Pesci invented his now famous fricka-frackin' gibberish, mumbling nonsense instead of actual curses. It became his signature sound, something between anger and cartoon villainy. Crew members said it was so convincing that kids on set assumed it was a secret grown-up language. The nonsense muttering ended up being funnier than any real curse word could have been. It turned Harry from a simple thief into a Looney Tunes-style bad guy, one who was dangerous, but just safe enough for a family film. The gangster movie Kevin watches, Angels with Filthy Souls, was completely fake. It wasn't an old film repurposed for the scene. It was shot specifically for Home Alone using 1940s-style cameras and lighting. Director Chris Columbus wanted it to feel so authentic that audiences would believe it was a real forgotten classic. Cinematographer Julio Macat used film stock from the era to mimic the look of early noir. The costumes were all vintage rentals from Hollywood's archive warehouses, and even the cigarette smoke was pumped in with 1940s-style fog machines. When test audiences first saw it, many assumed it was a real gangster film pulled from the studio vaults. The crew even built a miniature black and white set, complete with fake bullet holes and vintage props. The actor who played Johnny, Ralph Foodie, filmed all his scenes in one day, and his performance became so iconic that fans still quote his lines word for word. The fake movie worked so well that many viewers tried to rent it at video stores after the film's release. "Keep the change, you filthy animal," wasn't just a line, it became pop culture gold. John Candy filmed all his scenes in just one day. The comedy legend was shooting another project at the time, but agreed to help his friend John Hughes as a favor. He arrived on set, stayed for nearly 24 hours straight, and improvised almost everything. He was paid only $414 for the cameo, the lowest salary in the cast, and he never complained once. Between takes, he told stories to entertain the crew and kept everyone awake during the marathon shoot. Catherine O'Hara said his ability to switch from humor to tenderness in a heartbeat made the polka scenes feel real. His Polka King of the Midwest story about leaving a child in a funeral parlor wasn't scripted. He made it up on the spot. Catherine O'Hara, who played Kevin's mum, said she could barely keep a straight face during their scenes together. Despite his limited screen time, Candy's warmth and humor gave the film some of its most heartfelt moments. It's a perfect example of how even a single day's work can leave a lifelong impression. The pizza delivery scene used a real BB gun to capture the driver's startled reaction. When Kevin plays the "Keep the Change" movie clip to scare off the delivery guy, the production team wanted his jump to look genuine. The airsoft gun wasn't powerful enough to harm anyone, but it made a loud, realistic pop that startled the actor every time. They rehearsed the timing over and over until the cue matched the sound of the fake gunfire. The driver, played by actor Denny Hansen, said he had no idea when the pop would go off, so his startled face was completely authentic. The crew later revealed it became one of their favorite reactions in the entire film. Chris Columbus insisted on using the effect to get a real flinch, and it worked perfectly. The driver's nervous laughter and stammering response were completely unscripted. The scene's authenticity helped sell Kevin's prank as something that could actually... It was movie mischief at its finest, harmless, hilarious, and just believable enough to make every kid try it at home. The basement furnace that terrified Kevin wasn't a special effect created with computer graphics. The production team built a real furnace prop with mechanical doors, but to make it growl, they animated it frame by frame. Each light flicker and door movement was done by hand, giving it a slightly exaggerated, dreamlike quality. The sound design team added layered roars and echoing metallic groans to make it feel alive. Even the sparks were real, created with hidden flashbulbs. The result was something every kid could relate to, a familiar household object turned into a monster by imagination. For Kevin, it was fear incarnate. For viewers, it was a reminder that even bravery starts in the basement. The snow in Home Alone wasn't real snow at all. It was a mix of wax and shredded plastic. The film's unforgettable. The score actually saved Home Alone. Originally, producers wanted a simple pop soundtrack, but when test audiences said something was missing, John Williams was brought in at the last minute. He watched a rough cut and immediately composed themes that turned slapstick into heartwarming magic. His sweeping orchestral sound, equal parts wonder and nostalgia, gave the film its emotional center. The opening melody, Somewhere in My Memory, became an instant classic and earned Williams an Academy Award nomination. Director Chris Columbus said that when he first heard it, the movie suddenly felt like Christmas. Without that score, Home Alone might have been remembered as a fun kids' comedy, not the timeless holiday tradition it became. The music gave the movie its heart, wrapping every scream and pratfall in a warm blanket of pure holiday spirit. Home Alone almost started as a National Lampoon movie. John Hughes originally pitched it as a darker, edgier comedy about neglectful parents and a mischievous kid taking revenge on burglars. The early script had harsher language, more violent traps, and fewer moments of heart. When studios hesitated, Hughes reworked the tone, cutting the mean-spirited humor and replacing it with warmth and slapstick charm. He said the turning point was realizing he wanted parents to watch it with their kids, not hide it from them. The new version kept his sharp wit, but added something rare: empathy. That shift changed everything. Instead of another cynical Lampoon sequel, Home Alone became a holiday story about forgiveness, bravery, and family. The kind of movie even Clark Griswold would watch with a smile. Robert De Niro was the first actor offered the role of Harry, but he turned it down, calling the script too silly. At the time, De Niro was fresh off intense crime dramas and wasn't ready to trade gangsters for gags. The studio wanted a big name to balance Macaulay Culkin's fresh face, but De Niro's past led them to Joe Pesci instead. When Pesci signed on, he brought both menace and comic timing, reshaping Harry into a believable threat with a ridiculous edge. Director Chris Columbus later admitted that De Niro would have made the movie darker, while Pesci made it funnier. The choice defined the film's tone: sharp, but never cruel. In hindsight, De Niro's refusal was the best thing that could have happened. Pesci didn't just play a crook. He made Harry a cartoon come to life, giving Home Alone its perfect mix of danger and delight. The Wet Bandits almost had a very different name: the Silver Tuna Bandits. In early drafts, Harry and Marv's nickname came from their obsession with robbing high-end homes filled with expensive electronics and fine jewelry, their silver tuna. The phrase even appears once in the final film, when Harry calls the McAllister's house the Silver Tuna. Screenwriter John Hughes later realized the name sounded more like a seafood restaurant than a criminal duo. By changing it to the Wet Bandits, he gave them a calling card that was both ridiculous and memorable. Leaving faucets running after every robbery became their signature, a perfect symbol of their stupidity and arrogance. The gag not only made audiences laugh, but also gave police an easy way to catch them. It was pure Hughes, clever, simple, and hilariously dumb at the same time. Home Alone's budget nearly doubled during production, leading to one of the most dramatic studio switch-ups in movie history. Initially financed by Warner Brothers, the project was capped at a strict $10 million. But when costs crept past $14 million, the studio pulled the plug mid-filming. What they didn't know was that 20th Century Fox secretly loved the project. Producer John Hughes quietly arranged for Fox executives to visit the set, and they agreed to buy the film that same day. Warner Brothers walked away, unaware that a future Christmas goldmine had just slipped through their fingers. When Home Alone hit theaters and grossed over $400 million worldwide, Warner executives reportedly called it one of the biggest mistakes in the studio's history. Sometimes, believing in one mischievous kid can pay off big time. Daniel Stern's feet were not acting. They were actually frozen during some of the outdoor scenes. Chicago's winter temperatures dropped below freezing, and his thin rubber soles offered almost no protection. While running through the snowy backyard, Stern's shoes filled with icy water between takes. Crew members tried layering plastic inside his shoes to keep the moisture out, but it only made the boots stiffer. Stern said he could hear the ice cracking with every step, and joked that the snow felt sharper than broken glass. The cold got so bad that the costume department kept a backup pair of socks on a heater just for him. He said he could feel his toes go numb halfway through filming and begged for thicker socks. But wardrobe refused to alter continuity. Instead, crew members used heat lamps and hairdryers between takes to thaw his feet. By the end of the day, Stern joked he could feel Christmas only from the ankles up. Despite the pain, he refused to use a stunt double for the barefoot scenes, saying the suffering made Marv's frustration real. The result? Comedy that hurt, literally. The film's snowstorm wasn't created by Hollywood effects. It was a real blizzard that hit Illinois during filming. The crew arrived to find the entire neighborhood blanketed overnight, forcing them to adjust lighting and shooting schedules. Instead of delaying production, director Chris Columbus embraced the chaos. The storm dumped nearly 2 feet of snow, burying equipment and forcing electricians to dig out power cables by hand. Cast members trudged through the drifts in full costume, laughing between takes as snowflakes stuck to their eyelashes. Cinematographers later said the natural light bouncing off the snow gave the scenes an ethereal glow that no filter could reproduce. The snow was so deep that the camera crew had to build wooden planks to move equipment between houses. Actors trudged through knee-high drifts while still pretending it was an ordinary December evening. The timing was perfect. The authentic snow made every scene look even more magical. After the storm cleared, they used fake flakes to maintain consistency, but nothing could beat those first few takes. Mother Nature delivered the kind of movie magic no prop department could duplicate. One of the most dangerous moments on set came from a simple prop gone wrong. During the red-hot doorknob scene, special effects technicians actually heated the metal plate from behind to make it glow. The problem was, they overdid it. The heat rose past 700 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to ignite the paint on the doorframe. Crew members noticed the smell of smoke just seconds before the varnish started to bubble. Chris Columbus immediately shut down the take, saying later it was the closest they came to losing a set entirely. The temperature rose so high that the wood door began to smoke, setting off alarms and forcing a full evacuation. Crew members rushed in with extinguishers before flames spread, saving the entire set by seconds. Macaulay Culkin later said the smell of burnt varnish lingered for days. After that, the glowing effect was faked using lighting gels and filters instead. Ironically, the movie's most dangerous stunt didn't come from falls or firecrackers. It came from a doorknob too hot to handle. Kevin's battle plan, the famous hand-drawn map of traps, wasn't made by the art department. It was drawn by Macaulay Culkin himself. Director Chris Columbus gave him a pencil and some paper, telling him to make it look like something a real kid would do. Culkin took the assignment seriously, even measuring distances between rooms to match the house layout. His handwriting, doodles, and uneven lines made the plan look perfectly believable. When he proudly handed it in, Columbus framed it on the wall of his office after filming Wrapped. Culkin carefully sketched out every step, labeling traps and arrows in his own handwriting. The crew was so impressed, they used his version in the final movie. The wrinkles, eraser marks, and uneven lines all made it feel completely authentic. That simple drawing became one of the most memorable props in the film, showing just how much creative freedom Culkin had on set. The real magic of Home Alone wasn't in the budget or the traps. It was in the imagination of one clever kid. Macaulay Culkin's real-life brother, Kieran Culkin, played Fuller, the mischievous cousin with the thick glasses and endless cans of Pepsi. Fuller's role was small, but unforgettable, especially thanks to the infamous "he wets the bed" line. Casting Kieran wasn't just nepotism. Director Chris Columbus said the brothers' chemistry brought instant realism to the chaos of the McAllister household. Kieran was only 7 at the time and barely understood the jokes, which made his deadpan expressions even funnier. The Pepsi can he drank from in the dinner scene was filled with coloured water, so he wouldn't actually get hyper. His tiny smirk after being warned not to wet the bed became one of the film's most perfectly timed comedic beats. The two spent most of their downtime on set playing Game Boy in their trailer, and Kieran later admitted he had no idea he was in a future classic. That brief appearance launched his own acting career, eventually leading to roles in cult films and television dramas decades later. Watching him in the background, smirking at Kevin's antics, adds another layer of authenticity, because he really was Kevin's little brother. It's one of those subtle family touches that helped Home Alone feel like a real Christmas morning, full of noise, laughter, and a few sticky soda spills. The Michael Jordan cardboard cutout in Kevin's fake party scene wasn't a random prop. It came straight from a real 1990 Chicago Bulls and Nike promotional ad. The standee was part of a local store display celebrating the team's dominance that season. Since the movie filmed just outside Chicago, the crew borrowed one from a nearby sporting goods shop. The prop team had to repair it every night because the motorized track kept knocking Jordan into the window frame. Local Bulls fans working on the crew begged to take photos with the cutout between takes. One assistant even admitted they played the team's theme song on set just to hype themselves up before filming. The prop team added moving tracks to make it glide past the window, giving the illusion of a dancing guest. Chris Columbus said the moment embodied Kevin's resourcefulness and Chicago pride in one clever visual gag. When fans later spotted the exact cutout in archived Nike photos, it became a tiny pop culture crossover. That cardboard Jordan might have been silent, but in Kevin's hands, it became part of one of the most joyful fake parties in movie history. The annoying neighborhood kid who pesters the McAllisters before their trip was actually played by director Chris Columbus's own son, Brennan. Columbus wanted a real child who could act curious without overplaying it, and his son fit the part perfectly. The role only lasted a few moments, but his endless questions, especially about the van and the trip, became one of the film's funniest bits of chaos. Brennan was so nervous before filming that his father promised him ice cream if he nailed the take. He not only nailed it, he improvised part of the dialogue, catching the adult actors off guard. After the scene wrapped, the crew applauded, and Brennan spent the rest of the day beaming. Brennan wasn't even supposed to have lines at first. but his genuine curiosity made Columbus rewrite the scene around him. The director later joked that casting his son was cheap and effective labor. Decades later, Brennan Columbus went on to work in film production himself, proudly crediting Home Alone as his first job. It's a small family Easter egg hidden inside one of the movie's most frantic sequences, proof that even behind the camera, Home Alone was truly a family affair. After Home Alone was released, the McAllister house became one of the most famous film locations in America. Located in Winnetka, Illinois, the real home instantly drew crowds who wanted to see where Kevin fought off the burglars. Fans parked on the street to snap photos or reenact trap scenes in the driveway. The homeowners were kind at first, even handing out candy canes to visitors, but it quickly became overwhelming. Tour buses began stopping outside daily, and neighbors complained about traffic blocking the narrow road. Eventually, the local police had to restrict holiday parking entirely. The owners were overwhelmed by the attention, with tourists knocking on the door and asking to see the staircase. Eventually, police had to patrol the area during the holidays to control traffic. Even today, more than 30 years later, hundreds of visitors stop by each December for a photo. The house's white exterior, red door and snowy yard became as iconic as any character in the movie. It's not just a building, it's the ultimate symbol of Christmas movie magic. Years after the movie's release, MythBusters decided to test the famous paint can trap. They wanted to know if swinging a full metal can at that speed could really knock out a burglar. The answer was shocking. It would have done far more than knock them out. When the experiment started, the paint can reached speeds of over 30 miles per hour, hitting with a force strong enough to fracture bone. The hosts called it one of their most unexpectedly violent results, joking that Kevin McAllister was a pint-sized action hero. The scene's deadly accuracy made viewers appreciate just how far movie physics bend for comedy. The experiment showed that the force of impact could crush a human skull instantly. After Home Alone was released, the McAllister house became one of the most famous film locations in America. Located in Winnetka, Illinois, the real home instantly drew crowds who wanted to see where Kevin fought off the burglars. Fans parked on the street to snap photos or reenact trap scenes in the driveway. The homeowners were kind at first, even handing out candy canes to visitors, but it quickly became overwhelming. Tour buses began stopping outside daily, and neighbors complained about traffic blocking the narrow road. Eventually, the local police had to restrict holiday parking entirely. The owners were overwhelmed by the attention, with tourists knocking on the door and asking to see the staircase. Eventually, police had to patrol the area during the holidays to control traffic. Even today, more than 30 years later, hundreds of visitors stop by each December for a photo. The house's white exterior, red door, and snowy yard became as iconic as any character in the movie. It's not just a building, it's the ultimate symbol of Christmas movie magic. Years after the movie's release, MythBusters decided to test the famous paint can trap. They wanted to know if swinging a full metal can at that speed could really knock out a burglar. The answer was shocking. It would have done far more than knock them out. When the experiment started, the paint can reached speeds of over 30 miles per hour, hitting with a force strong enough to fracture bone. The hosts called it one of their most unexpectedly violent results, joking that Kevin McAllister was a pint-sized action hero. The scene's deadly accuracy made viewers appreciate just how far movie physics bend for comedy. The experiment showed that the force of impact could crush a human skull instantly. Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci's characters would not have survived the first trap, let alone the rest of the night. The results made fans appreciate how perfectly cartoonish the movie's violence really was. In real life, Kevin McAllister might have faced more than